Okay. It is Sunday, October 22nd, 2023, and my iPad is upside down. Hold a second here. There we go. Much better. My teleprompter was goofed up. I don't know why I didn't notice that sooner. Sunday, October 22nd, 2023. It's our weekly Q&A. Thank you for joining us. We are DPF guys based in Atlanta, Georgia. We focus 100% on diesel aftertreatment services for anything with a diesel engine and an emission system. Most of our customers are truck drivers and fleets, but we also service the after treatment for off-road equipment, the earth movers and dozers and excavators, diesel passenger vehicles, and even stationary equipment with DPF systems like generators, pumps, rock crushers, and more, like the big tippers at the landfill and so on. So we like to say if it has a DPF, we can clean it. Disclaimer: while I try to give good and accurate advice here, you should always talk to your trusted mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or truck. And any pricing discussed here may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline, is not any form of an official quote for any services by DPF guys or anybody else on Earth, in the solar system, or the galaxy. Um, Anyway, so let's get into this. So we get questions asked, all of our social media platforms throughout the week, and I try to answer them here. Also, if you're watching on YouTube and wanted to check us out on TikTok, either now we're actually doing a live on TikTok. Look for DPF guys on TikTok. I'm actually streaming live on TikTok right now. I'm going to say hi to the people watching me on TikTok. Thanks for jumping in. Um, and when I get done answering the list of, I think it's 6 questions this week, I'm going to swing over to TikTok and get more in depth and take some live questions here. Of course, if you're watching us anywhere, YouTube, Facebook, etc., you can post a question and we will either get to it next week, or if we catch it before we sign off, I can definitely answer it here. Our number, 404-999-1361. Recommend you text us or call us. And if you have any questions or need help, please get a hold of us. So, question number one, and it's a fairly basic one: what's your price? And as I said earlier, pricing can vary, that sort of stuff, but we try to keep it simple. So pricing can vary based on what needs to get done and what sort of truck or vehicle we were talking about, but we try to keep it simple. As of right now, and again, this is October 2023. If you're watching this video in, December of 2025, these prices might be different. But right now, in round numbers, to clean a DPF on a typical truck, it's $295. So around $300 to clean a single DPF. We also recommend cleaning the DOC, which will be around $125 to clean. So do the math: 295, 125, and you have 420. That wasn't on purpose, really. Well, maybe a little, for a standard DPF and DOC cleaning. Um, People, we recommend cleaning the DOC as well as the DPF, because 10% of this buildup of soot will be in the DOC, the remainders in the DPF, and you want to clean both. Even though the DOC is not a filter, it does kind of crud up with soot, and then what happens is the soot in the DOC can jump into the DPF. Doesn't really cause any major harm, but will reduce the life expectancy, like the lifespan of that DPF cleaning. So you want to get all the soot out, so you get as many miles, as many engine hours as possible out of that DPF and DOC cleaning. The pricing we're talking about here does not include the necessary parts like clamps and gaskets, which will need to get replaced. But normally, the clamps and gaskets don't cost much more than $200 to $300. And generally speaking, we won't cost more than the dealership. We're generally less expensive than the dealership. In fact, interesting story. For Volvo and Mac, we normally keep a really good inventory of those clamps and gaskets. But for some reason, we were really, really hit hard with Volvo filter cleaning one week, and we ran out on like a Thursday, and we had a customer in there. We needed to get clamps for them. We had our inventory shipments coming in on Friday, and his filter came in on Wednesday. So now it's Thursday. We don't have gaskets or clamps for him. He had gaskets, didn't have clamps. And And so I thought I'll run to the Volvo dealership and I'll pick up clamps for them. And I think our normal price for that particular Volvo clamp might have been $80. And I thought, well, maybe it'll be 90 at the Volvo dealership, but kind of in the same ballpark. We just would have passed that through. Um, but the clamps at Volvo were $200 a piece. OMG. So I called the customer. I said, well, I can get you clamps today for 200 bucks, or if you don't mind picking up your truck tomorrow, we can get them for about $78, 80 bucks, whatever it was. And he said, just keep my truck for an extra day, and saved him, saved him a couple $100 on clamps. Um, so anyway, so keep that in mind. The cleaning doesn't include the clamps and gaskets, any parts you might require. And we can let you know what those are once we see your filter if you're curious. But you do need to get new clamps and gaskets, and whether you buy them from us or the dealer makes no matter to us, but it's much more convenient and less costly to get them from us normally. But if you happen to get them ahead of time and bring them in, well, we don't mind. We're not going to yell at you about that. Also, certain trucks like the Freightliner Western Star with a Detroit engine and a one box, they have more than one DPF. They've got two DPFs in there. And so, now you're looking at $295 per DPF. There's two of them. That's $590. And clamps and gaskets for that one box are more expensive, about $400 for the complete clamp and gasket set, which you will absolutely need. Now maybe it's not $400, might be 380 or something like that. But I always tell people to budget about $400 for a clamp and gasket set for a one box. What was I thinking here? Oh yeah, kind of as an aside. I'm talking about cleaning the DPFs here, but if you got a one box, I always tell people to think about getting the whole thing cleaned versus just the filters, because you can have a buildup of soot that will build up on the face of the DOCs. It's called a face plug. That's not abnormal to have that happen. That's very difficult for a regen to clean that off. And um, so if you do the math, two DPFs at 295 each, that's 590. Let's say about $400 for clamps and gaskets. So now you're at $1,000. Um, and you can do your entire one box for just over $1,600, like 1,675, something like that. And that gets your DOCs cleaned, your DPFs, of course. It's all the parts, inlet and outlet clamps and gaskets, a new def dozer gasket, um, clean your SCR, all that stuff. And while we'll be more than happy to do just your filters, you may want to think about doing the whole thing. Um, I'm distracting myself here, and I apologize for that. Um, so, but if you've got a medium or light duty vehicle like a Ram 2500, 3500, Ford F-250, 350, or similar, normally those vehicles have a DPF system where everything is welded together, and the manufacturer, the dealer, just expects you to buy a new DPF assembly. Now, not only can that be quite expensive, I mean, could be several $1,000s, even upwards of $6,000. For some of those, especially the Fords, there's been a national back order. I think even some of the Rams. So it's not even, even if they were free, or if you just had money growing on a tree in your backyard, um, you still waiting in line for a new filter. So those we can definitely clean. We can turn them around in 24 hours, but they do require precision cutting and rewelding, which will cost about $330 more. So on a Ford, a Ford F-350, 250, Ram 2500, that sort of thing, or similar, Sprinter van, etc., you're going to be looking at about 750 flat to clean that. And if you need to have your SCR cleaned, it's an additional 225, $325 about, depending upon the truck. Since you're asking about pricing, let's talk about EGR coolers. Those can be cleaned as well, usually around $185. Normally right around $200 to clean an EGR cooler. There are a couple of EGR coolers that are just ridiculous and huge and heavy. Those cost more, but we don't see many of those. But if you have one of those, we'll talk to you about it. We can do the EGR valves as well. Those things do get a tendency to get pretty crapped up and get sticky. And we can clean those up like new, usually for 100, $125 or so. And that's really it, other than sometimes there are additional labor charges if we're required to do disassembly or cut, tap, or re-weld broken or stripped sensor bungs, sensor ports. They sometimes things will break off in those, or they'll strip out. They need to get re-drilled, retapped, or even cut off and re-welded. We do stock the bungs, so that's not a big deal, but there'll be a little extra labor for that. And the most important thing to remember is that our prices do not include removing the filters from the truck, reinstalling the filters back on your truck once they're cleaned, or hooking up the computer and doing the necessary, usually necessary, reset of soot levels and codes. So, if you are a mechanic or you have a mechanic, and we'd be more than happy to work with you or with your mechanic. If you don't have a mechanic that that you work with frequently, that you know and trust, we'll be happy to introduce you to somebody who can work quickly, correctly, and for a reasonable price. But it's a separate price. Um, I don't know what that number is. It's usually in the $800 range, sometimes 750, sometimes 850, sometimes 800. Um, and which seems to be a fairly fair price. And keep in mind that the mechanic has to come in one day, take everything off the truck. He comes back the next day once the filters are cleaned. He reinstalls everything back on the truck, and then hooks up his laptop to your truck and resets everything. So it's a 2-day process. He comes back twice, and I don't know exactly what they charge. They all vary by a bit, but if you figure around 800 bucks plus or minus, you're going to be right in the ballpark. Um, so that's a long answer to a short question. What's your price? Let me talk for half an hour about that. Okay. Number two. Uh, Now this is a good one, and it's one gives me a chance to kind of talk about the whole concept of a delete. He says, "Hi, do you know where I could have an ECU file modified for a RAM 3500 with a Cummins? Do you know a company where I could send the file to be modified in Europe? No one is capable. I want to delete the shitty DPF SCR." So there you go. The "I just want to delete it. Tell me how to do it" question. So this is like going to the doctor and asking, "Hey, doctor, where can I buy some black tar heroin or cocaine?" The doctor's going to be like, "Man, I have no idea. I can help you. I can help you legally, but that's not something we know about." So people don't realize that they're asking me, how I can help them commit a felony, how I can help them get a $45,000 fine, and possibly sitting for a couple of years in the federal clink. Honestly, I don't know how you can get your ECU modified, and I would recommend against it. The tunes or deletes or whatever you want to do, whatever you want to call them, are getting harder and harder to do. And more states are starting to do emissions in vehicles like this person's Ram 3500. Um, I don't know for sure. I actually didn't speak to them. I hope I have a chance to talk to them actually. But I suspect they have an engine issue that is causing symptoms in the after treatment. And all a delete would do is fix the symptom, not the root cause. Um, or, or this is kind of interesting. You may have a fairly new, like a 2022, 2021, and he may just be using the wrong air filter. This is going to sound nuts, but using a non OEM air filter in one of the newer medium duty trucks can throw off the fuel air mixture in the engine and cause the engine to produce excessive soot and plug up the DPF. It is totally confounding. Um, Normally the aftermarket air filters are perfectly fine, but for some reason, either they breathe too well or not well enough, or who knows what. But I've had somebody report this issue. I told them to spend the $40 on an OEM air filter. They popped it in truck, they were able to do a regen. The truck ran great. They've never had a problem again. So if you do have a newer, Ram or Ford, and it's plugging up the DPF and you only have 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 miles on it, like basically no miles on it at all, and the DPF is acting like you got a half a million miles on it, it could be your air filter. Um, it's worth trying. And these people say, "Oh yeah, my truck's got 40,000 miles on it. I replaced the air filter and boom, my DPF plugged up." Like, put a different air filter in there and see what happens. And generally it fixes the issue. Not always, but it's worth being aware of. Um, so, my advice to this question, the person who asked this question, or anybody else out there, is delete if you must, but understand that deleting your truck can be the source of many unhappy and unexpected consequences, including damaging your engine and also getting it where the dealer won't work on it and that sort of thing. Oh, by the way, um, if your truck is new enough and is still under warranty, I had a friend that had this happen to him. His truck was fairly new, still under warranty, or at least it was under recall warranty. Had his transmission go out. He had deleted his truck, and he brought it. He got the notice, brought it back to the dealership to get his transmission fixed, and they said, "We'll be more than happy to fix your transmission, but you have to undelete your truck first," which was a $14,000 proposition. So he ended up just paying for the new transmission, which is about $4,000. Um, and he was forced to do that because he deleted the truck. And so just keep in mind that there are consequences. Okay, number 3. And this one's kind of an interesting one. Do you know anyone that needs a one box, or do you all sell your own? So it's kind of two things. I'm not sure if he's got a one box that he's selling or if he's looking for one. We'll find out more about that this coming week. But it gives me an opportunity to kind of talk about the concept of refurbishing one boxes and what actually goes wrong with them. Um, so we were, this is going to sound like I'm discouraging you from buying a used one box. It's going to sound like I'm telling you not to do that because I want to sell you a new one. But here is my story. We used to sell, refurbish and resell one boxes, and we were buying them from all over the place, junkyards, everything like that. And we are doing a great job refurbishing them. They were looking great. Filters were in great shape. DOCs were in great shape. The SCRs looked good, but and we were making money, man. It was a moneymaker. Everybody was winning here. Um, but we ended up with a 90% failure rate of the refurbished one boxes, and we had to buy them all back under warranty. So I no longer recommend that anybody uses a one box, a used anybody buys a used one box because the odds are that it won't work. You'll either have a one box that won't convert NOx due to a failed or failing SCR, or you'll have a box with hairline cracks inside it that let the exhaust sneak through and booger things up, and that'll cause it to fail either eventually or almost immediately. Now, yes, you may get lucky, but the odds are not in your favor. And the problem with the one boxes is that you don't know if they're good or bad until you get them on the truck. There's nothing you can look at. There's nothing you can measure. Now the filters and things like that, you can look at those and see if they're cracked. DOCs are pretty obvious, but um, there are other issues with the one box. You do not know if it's good or bad until it's on the truck, which means you've got to go buy a used one box, have it shipped to you, or go pick it up, take your old one off, put the used one on, get all the sensors switched over, and after all that time and labor, which can cost quite a bit, um, you find out that that new one box is not working, then you have to undo all of that, and it can be a big hassle, lots of downtime, lots of expense. Um, so we no longer sell refurbished one boxes. I don't recommend people buy them. If you do buy a used one box and want us to clean it for you, we certainly can. Um, but again, you may get lucky. It may be perfectly fine, but the odds are not in your favor. So we do sell excellent aftermarket one boxes, brand new, fully loaded, filters, everything, ready to go with everything but sensors. And these one boxes have one of the best warranties in the industry, covered by a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. And and we either have them in stock and waiting for you, or we can get them usually within 24 hours, and we can ship them to you anywhere in the U.S. other than California, because California is weird about aftermarket after treatment products. Um, but if you have a friend in Nevada, we can ship to them, or you can come pick it up. But if you have a question about your one box, give us a call or a text, 404-999-1361, and get all the details. Okay, question number 4. This is also a really good one. So if I wanted to swap mine out before it becomes plugged, can I do so without a computer, or does it need recalibration? I'm assuming he's talking about his DPF, and uh, it depends on the truck. Some trucks use only the pressure differential delta P sensor to determine if the DPF needs a regen or needs to be cleaned or replaced. So when the DPF gets plugged up, the inlet pressure goes up and the regen is triggered to burn the soot into ash. But eventually, there is so much ash built up in the DPF that the regen no longer works, or the buildup of ash causes the soot to build up, and the regen no longer works. So it's time to get it cleaned or swapped out. So if your truck only cares about the pressure differential and you can catch it before the truck goes into D-rate, because if the truck goes into D-rate, oftentimes that is a permanent condition that needs to be reset. It can only be reset with a computer. If your truck's not in D-rate yet and it's only monitoring for the pressure differential, um, swapping the dirty DPF for a clean one should not require a reset, and you should be good to go. However, some trucks use pressure differential as well as a mileage and hour counter. And once your hours or miles hit a certain number, the truck will start to tell you that it's time to replace or clean your filters. And you can only turn that off with a reset, regardless of how clean or how new your filters may be. So, like many questions I get, the answer is it depends, which I know is frustrating because it depends on your individual situation. This also means that if you get your DPF cleaned by us, it will be like new, but in many instances, just cleaning the DPF won't turn off your warning lights, and you will need to have the truck hooked to a computer for a reset. I've had this happen a couple of times where people will bring to me a truck. We do a great job on the DPF. It looks great. They pop it back on. Usually, this is like a Ram, and because it's not hard to get that DPF assembly off, so the owner will take it off. We have it cleaned. He puts it back on, and his lights are still on. And he'll be like, "You must not have done a good job on my DPF because my lights are still on." And I have to explain to him, DPF is fine. He just needs to get the truck reset. So bring it to a mechanic or the dealer, and they'll reset everything, and then he's good for the next 150, 200,000 miles. So it really depends on your truck and what, if any, codes you are getting. All right. Question number 5. Do you ship to California? Um, so this question came in because of a video on TikTok that we did about our stock of cleaned, tested, warranted OEM filters and Volvo SCRs and one boxes. So let me show you that video here quick. Hang on a second.
Remanufactured DOC, DPF,
I'm
and
showing a
SC
video
are
right
ready
now.
to go for many models. Text or call for 049991361 with part number for price and availability.
Hello, hello. Happy Saturday. What you're looking at behind me is a metric shit ton of OEM, DPF, DOC, Volvo One boxes that have been cleaned, have a 1-year warranty, and are ready to go. So if you've got a newer Volvo, we've got filters ready for you. We also have, we have Volvo, we have Cummins, we've got the
Volvo, which
one
has
boxes for the newer
the
Volvos and
SCR,
Max. We have the
DOC, and the one unit is for the
SCRs for the
newer
older Volvos
Volvos.
and Max.
And Max too. Don't forget Volvo and Mac.
We have these SCRs. All right, let me stop this here. Okay, I'll make myself big screen. Um, so the question is, do you ship to California? And yes, we do ship to California because everything that I was showing in that video is 100% OEM and original, and it everything's been cleaned to be like new. It's been tested to make sure that it's 100% not bypassing soot, no clocks, no cracks, no holes, um, and everything has a 1-year unlimited mileage warranty. Um, and so, and we also sell OEM and aftermarket DOC and DPF as well, but we can only ship OEM units to California, whether they be used or new, because California does not allow us aftermarket sales in the state. But if you have a friend in Nevada, let's talk. So if you want to learn more about our on the shelf cleaned OEM filters and Volvo and Mac one boxes and SCRs, give us a text or a call, 404-999-1361. All right, number 6. Oh, I didn't record this one. I didn't put this on my list. But the question is there a reason you just don't use wire feed welder for this? So this question came in from TikTok again about a video that I where we used the TIG welding process to reassemble filter for a BMW. Let me show that to you here. Hang on a second. Uh, Here we go. Because the weld was so good, he didn't believe that it was okay.
course, once you put it on the truck and the truck ran like new, he knew the work was
So
done.
we're welding this back together and
So
using
finishing
TIG
up.
for it.
Alrighty. Okay, this is the tab I was talking about. We had to cut that off because you can see it's in the way of where the
And the question that
cutting
I'm asking
wheel
is,
had to
why are
go
we
to
using
make that
TIG
cut.
and just not using wire feed?
Zip, get that on there. Just takes a quick second. Careful, it's hot. Don't lick it. And then there is the stainless steel pipe that we had to separate carefully and then splice with a piece of high temperature tubing, and he's going to weld the bracket back on.
So I don't know if you can see how nice
And we
that
are
TIG
gonna be
weld
good
looks, but
to
that is why
go.
we
Almost
do it
done.
that way. So anyway, so we could use, uh, so we do use wire feed MIG on many of our filters, like the Ford F-250s and 350s, on the Duramaxes, on uh, the Ram, the Ram 2500, 3500s. But we're doing the filters off of BMWs, Mercedes, off of Sprinter vans. Those are normally a much shinier stainless steel, and things just look so much nicer when we use TIG. So we could use either welding process on that sort of job, but on the German vehicles, we like the end result of the TIG better than MIG, but either will get the job done. In a nutshell, TIG is prettier. So that's why. Um, anyway, so there you have it. Your questions, my answers. I'm going to quick check to see if we have any questions that came in from. Uh, oh man, actually, we got a good one here. Let me show this one here. So this came in from Jerome Jones on YouTube. Jerome, hey, if you're watching, awesome. Thanks for the question. I'm glad I caught it before I jumped off. Would it be a good guide to keep the emission system clean and out of? What would be a good guide to keep the system clean and out of the dealer? Jerome, that's a great question. And this answer will apply to no matter what you're driving, whether you've got a a BMW 3 Series with a diesel engine and a DPF, uh, a great big dump truck, Ford F-350, a Ram, whatever it is. Um, use good motor oil. Keep your oil change because a full synthetic the full synthetic motor oil um, will you'll burn less of it, and that'll avoid getting the metals down into the DPF. Keep your air filter clean. Um, use a fuel additive. We're going to have a video about this coming up in the next week or two, talking about that. Um, and don't idle excessively. Make sure you run your truck long enough so it properly regenerates, and just keep an eye on things. If it starts to call for a parked regen, it's telling you it's time to clean it. If those parked regens start to happen more frequently and at a mileage that's suspiciously low, you might have an issue with your air filter or something like that. Um, but and if you want to, Jerome, if you want to talk about this more, feel free to give us a text or a call, 404-999-1361. I got another one here. Um, thanks for your questions. How much do the machines for cleaning cost? Um, I'd love to talk to you more about that. We're actually working on expanding our business, and we could use some people to help us get into new territories here to help serve our customers better. Um, you're probably looking at about $100,000 for the machines, um, plus or minus. Uh, but we've got a big shop in Atlanta, so we have, kind of more, the bigger equipment. But if you had a small shop, or a small fleet that you were taking care of, you could get by with probably some less expensive equipment. But if you want to learn more about it, oh, Chicago, awesome. Um, the so I'm going to pronounce your name probably wrong, Dejan. I apologize, but if you wanted to give me a call and talk more about it, please do, 404-999-1361, or drop me a text. I can give you a call back. Um, so Dejan says, I am in Chicago. Are you a driver or mechanic or, something completely random like a chiropractor? Just curious. But anyway, what else we got here? Uh, I keep your questions and comments coming, so I will read them. We do see them all. Um, and if I miss you, I'll definitely get back to you. Um, but other than that, uh, just remember that if you are watching on any other channel here, um, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook as well. And I'm going to be signing off from YouTube here and elsewhere, but I'm going to continue this conversation with on a TikTok live. So, and actually, I'm looking up at TikTok right now. So, anybody on TikTok live, I'm gonna be wrapping this up, and I'll be answering your questions that are coming in from here as well. But otherwise, thanks everybody for watching, and please, enter your comments and questions down below. I will catch them and follow up with you and answer them in next week's live. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week. If you want to get a hold of us, as always, call or text 404-999-1361. We are in Atlanta, Georgia. And if there's anything we do for you, please get a hold of us. Otherwise, I will catch you next week. Thanks for watching.